State Government Policy, Finance, and Elections Committee, this being Tuesday, February 16th. So welcome everybody to State Government Committee hearing today. We do have a full agenda in front of us. We have 4 bills. And so with that, we'll get right to it. And members, this is an all Zoom hearing. So we will go ahead and remind you just about if we come to a vote or an action to be sure that you take yourself off of mute and anticipate that as you are participating in the committee, but we will give you time as well and call for that. So with that, we will go ahead and we'll have our first bill, Senator Housley, and I'll move Senate File 276, Senator Housley.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I have the A2 amendment to get the bill in the shape I want to. It's a technical amendment. Okay, members, we have the A2 amendment. I'll move the A2 amendment to Senate File 276. And Senator Housley, I've noticed and read this amendment. It's been posted and been distributed. So it's some word changes and all of that. So members, with that, we'll proceed to a vote. Are there any questions on the A2 amendment? I don't see any at this time. Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. Members, take yourself off mute and also be on camera. All those in favor of the A2 amendment to Senate File 276, please say aye.
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 Thumbs up. Opposed? Motion prevails. The A2 amendment is adopted to Senate File 276. And with that, Senator Housley, to your bill as amended. And welcome to the committee. Glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad you're having me. Senate File 276 is a bill about making the process of getting your driver's license much quicker. We've all heard the stories of the newly turned 16-year-old who's so excited to get his or her driver's license, only to find out that the backlog at DVS is months behind. Anxious parents have driven miles across the state, taking days off work to try and find a site or get their child to a site that has an available appointment, and then just pray that their son or daughter passes the test, because if they don't, then they go right back into the appointment queue to search the state for the next open slot. And all of this was happening even before COVID, and after COVID hit, it got even worse. This bill will allow for private behind-the-wheel instructors to be certified by the state of Minnesota to administer Class D driving tests. The Department of Public Safety would develop a uniform standard on which students are tested, approve these acceptable testing routes, and audit the third-party testers if necessary to ensure the program's integrity. And then it would also allow for these third-party testers to conduct the behind-the-wheel examinations. It has the third-party testers trained and subject to the same rules and regulations as current DVS staff. Testers are required to conduct the same exam the same way that DVS does. It also states that the third-party tester is the same person that provides the behind-the-wheel instruction, that they can't use the same routes for training and testing. Requires that these third-party testers submit records of each examination to DVS so they can audit and, if necessary, investigate the third-party tester. The tester can't be related to the test taker, also as stated in there, and it mirrors current rules indemnifying the state testers, the state and third-party testers to be held harmless for claims brought by someone injured due to an accident. Has an effective date of August 2021. This is the same third-party bill that we passed last year, 37 to 30. It is Senate File 276 is a common sense solution to the backlog of driver's tests around the state. In the last committee, Senator Jasinski brought up that he had a similar bill just like this for the bus driving testing. They have third-party testers now doing that, and it's been a godsend for that industry, and it's been working very, very well without any complaints. So that is my bill, Madam Chair, members, and thank you for allowing me to hear it.
Thank you, Senator Housley, for this. I have grandchildren and we have friends and neighbors and everybody, and they call and contact us, and very frustrating, especially for the young people to get their experience. So at any rate, we appreciate that, but I'm going to ask Ms. James, though, there's a particular section of your bill that brings it to State Government Policy and Finance and Elections Committee. So Senator Housley, I'm going to ask Ms. James to describe the section of the bill that brings it before this committee in particular.
Madam Chair and members, I think you have in your packets a summary of just the aspects that are in the jurisdiction of the State Gov Committee. And that draws your attention to section 14, subdivision 5, which provides for a contested case proceeding for one of these third-party testers who's been either denied certification to offer the testing or a cancellation for their certification, any sort of negative decision about their ability to offer these tests to be challenged through a contested case proceeding. And that's in the Office of Administrative Hearings. And that's what makes it in the jurisdiction of State Gov.
Thank you very much, Ms. James, and members. If you have questions in regards to that area, we'll look to Ms. James as well to help answer these questions, or the Senator Housley as well. We do have another testifier though, members, at this time. Ms. Emma Corey, the Department of Vehicle Services Director, is here today to give testimony on this bill. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Corey, and please go ahead and give your testimony, Ms. Corey.
Thank you, Chair Kippmeyer, Senator Housley, and members. Good morning. This is Emma Corey, and I'm the DVS Driver and Vehicle Services Director. 2 points that I am wanting to make this morning in relation to this bill. One is I want to highlight that DVS has had success in addressing the backlog caused by the spring 2020 COVID-19 office closures. About this time last year, we had talked about canceling 19,000 road tests because of the stay-at-home order. I promised, our team promised you that we would make up those 19,000 tests, as well as all of the summer rush in the heart of the pandemic. Between May and October, we were able to do 82,000 road tests, with times when we had almost 1/3 of our staff complement that was out either directly because of COVID or because of care for COVID. So we did more tests in the heart of the pandemic than we have done in the years prior to. Your DVS does care about those 16-year-olds, those 15-year-olds. And we have done in the heart of the pandemic things like the virtual lobby that keeps people in their cars while they wait. There are options for us to be able to do a lot more online. I want for you to think about this past year and how your DVS has served Minnesotans. Secondly, this bill does require, if it goes through, it is being asked of us to implement with no funding, with no additional appropriation. The cost of being able to first certify third-party testers across the board, across the states, to be able to audit the programs, to be able to inspect the programs, will be a cost anticipated approximately $5 million for the next biennium. This bill does not provide any funding to be able to implement this bill. It is just money that we do not have. It will adversely impact DVS services to be able to implement this bill with no appropriation. Finally, about the difference between third-party testing for school bus drivers and third-party testing for your 16-year-olds. When we talk about commercial driver's licenses, including school bus drivers, is heavily regulated by federal regulation. For example, those that train cannot test, totally removing conflict of interest, business, profitability out of the equation. This bill for third-party testing for Class D, your 16-year-old, my 18-year-old, does bring up many concerns around conflict of interest safety and the ability for our youngsters to drive safely. I want to bring those 3 points to your attention, and I'll stand for questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Corey, for the information you're giving. I want to ask you an underlying question, though. How is the Department of Vehicle Services operations funded? Where does the money come for funding DVS, Ms. Corey?
Mm-hmm. Chair Kiffmeyer, the funding for the DVS, both on the driver side and vehicle side, is from special revenue account, from the driver services special revenue account, and from the vehicle services special revenue account, which of course is populated by fees and completely funded by DVS fees and tax collections.
Thank you, Ms. Corey. And I have another question for you. Did I hear you correctly when you said that to implement this bill, it would take $5 million? Could you address that? And I have not seen that information anywhere else before.
Yep, this particular, Chair Kiffmeyer, thank you. This particular bill is requiring that we implement this with absorbing complete costs. So when we talk about the potential of maybe 300 entities raising their hand and saying we would like to be third-party testers, we would need to train 300 programs to be able to do this appropriately, to be able to do this safely. At the current time, when we train our examiners within DVS, it is at a minimum 6 weeks to be able to get a person that is new to testing to come in, to be able to understand firstly, the ramifications, and then of course, to be able to coach, to train them. We, our trainers sit, alongside with them, behind them, evaluate them till we actually let them go and be able to do these tests on their own. So when we talk about training, certifying, and then most importantly, overt and covert monitoring is going to be absolutely crucial to manage safety. So the costs of the administration of the program and the training and the auditing is what we are referencing. This particular bill does not have a fiscal note because it requires the agency to absorb all costs.
Thank you very much, Ms. Corey. We have another question, but Senator Housley, do you want to respond in this particular area? Otherwise, I'll go to Senator Pratt.
Madam Chair, we can go to Senator Pratt. Thanks.
All right, Senator Pratt. Then.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and Ms. Corey, congratulations on making up those backlog tests. I want to talk a little bit about the commercial piece. Wouldn't any third party that applied to provide these tests have to meet all the minimum standards? So that really shouldn't be a concern on who gives the test as long as they meet those requirements?
Ms. Corey.
Madam Chair, Senator Pratt, yes, we would require, the bill talks about certifying the testers to be able to do the test. Yes, that is true that it talks about us being able to train and certify. The point that I make is the cost of training and certifying and then having a robust enough program to audit on a regular basis, because a program like this could teach to the routes. So the inherent quality of our state examiners is that we are hoping to be able to test a youngster or even in the adults to be able to see how their reflexes are in those tests. And when we're talking about a training school, a driving school, a lot of the folks that will raise their hand to be able to be third-party testers might be driving schools. And these are driving schools that have a lot of benefit to be able to say, we have a 95% pass rate for our school when it comes to tests. Come in, train, and test right here within the $500 that you will pay for your driving course. So a robust program requires, yes, as you said, Senator Pratt, the ability to certify, train, and audit to a level that then says, yes, these examiners are going to be at the same level and standard as a state examiner.
Madam
Thank you, Ms.
Chair,
Corey. Senator Pratt.
thank you, Madam Chair. I have a follow-up to this question before I get to my final question. Ms. Corey, you stated that you couldn't train for these federals, you couldn't train and test. The same person couldn't do it. And yet you just said that somebody could offer that straight through. My question was, wouldn't the tester have to meet all the federal requirements in order to be certified to test? And you said yes. So how does your example correlate with your previous testimony?
Ms. Corey.
So thank you, Chair Kiffmeyer, Senator Pratt. What I am referencing, Senator Pratt, is under commercial driver's licenses, like the school bus drivers that we just talked about. There is federal FMCSA regulation that regulates it directly, which says anyone who trains commercial drivers cannot also test them. So there is a separation between training and testing. Now for Class D, in this particular case, what would happen is if, for example, ABC Driving School were to be saying that they also want to be able to test, unless we have a separation of duties between training and testing, there is the potential that this entity might have hired testers and trainers, even to separate it, but their benefit and the conflict of interest in order to pass and have a high 95% pass rate would conflict with the equivalent, which is not possible in CDL. I'm not sure if I'm doing justice to the answer, but yes. There is a federal regulation versus an absence of a regulation when it comes to Class D.
Thank you,
Ms. Corey. Senator Pratt, follow up?
Yeah, well, no, that's fine. I guess I misunderstood her previous between the commercial and the standard. But Ms. Corey, most of the testimony has not been to the section. Your testimony, I haven't felt, has been to the section that's in front of this committee, which is section 14. I guess I would ask for your feedback specifically on section 14, denial, cancellation, or suspension of a program in the appeal process.
Ms. Corey.
Chair Kiffmeyer, forgive me. Section 14. I heard about this bill to this hearing just this morning, so I don't have the bill in front of me. So if you could do me the benefit of covering section 14 briefly for me, so I could respond.
Ms. Corey, you are asking for assistance from who? I didn't quite catch it.
So the question was referencing section 14 of the bill. Is it possible for Senator Housley perhaps to cover section 14 for me briefly so I could respond? I do not have the bill right in front of me.
Yeah, Ms. Corey, first of all, I want to clear up, Ms. Corey, our staff sent the notice and that this was on the agenda last week, Friday. So today is Tuesday. So it was as required. I understand you may have not caught it, or I'm not quite sure what, because this is a bill that's been moving through different committees. So I certainly understand that, but it has been posted. I want to be sure members knew that. Senator Housley, we already had Ms. James go over section 14. I don't know if you addressed it specifically or if you want to add anything to that at this time, Senator Housley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I could read to Commissioner Corey if she wants me to this section 14 summary that Ms. James already, Ms. James already went over. The commissioner may deny an application for a program or tester if the applicant doesn't qualify. The commissioner may cancel the approval of a program or tester for specified reasons. The commissioner may also issue correction orders. The program or tester can appeal a cancellation or correction order either to the commissioner or by initiating a contested case proceeding. And if a correction order is appealed, the commissioner may not enforce the order until the appeal is complete. That's the section before this committee.
Thank you, Senator Housley. All right, well, I will go to, by the way, Senator Housley, I have a question for you. Ms. Corey mentioned those who test can train and those who train can't test. So you have that also the route. As I read through your bill, it seemed like you did a very good job of making sure that in the statute here, even to the point of a certified third-party tester must not be an employee of the department. Very thoughtful. And so I see the kinds of things that were brought up here by Ms. Corey actually in your bill. Do you want to address that? Do you agree with that? Ms.
Thank
Senator
you.
Housley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will give credit to Senate Counsel for coming up with that much detailed language. But also wondering if Ms. Corey could ask, how do you do it for motorcycle training? As I understand it, you do the training on the last day, the instructor then switches over and puts on their DVS hat and then does the test and passes or fails them on a motorcycle class. So how is that done differently than what you're saying?
Ms. Corey, could you please explain in regards to that happening in motorcycle testing? Ms. Corey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Kiffmeyer. So when it comes to motorcycle, I would not know the exact details regarding motorcycle tests, and I can certainly get back to this committee on our process for motorcycle testing. The concern that I continue to reference is when we talk about our youngest learners, the importance to DVS, and you've heard from Director Hansen of the Office of Traffic Safety as well, those youngest drivers are probably the drivers that have the highest crash rates. And we, are one of the safest states in the nation. DVS prides itself on our testing and our training process. And so again, I can certainly get back to this committee about our process for motorcycle testing.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Corey. The subject is the motorcycles and the separation of duties, as Senator Housley brought up. I think that's a very important issue that you have brought up. It's in this bill, so maybe we might need to do something about motorcycles too, Senator Housley, to make sure that there is fair training and those separation of duties in all areas. Thank you, Senator Housley. I'm going to go to Senator Clausen next, and then I'll go to Senator Koran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can see where the section 14 would certainly add to the total cost of this bill, because you're setting up a whole process of initiating proceedings that would cost some money as you go through that process. But I do have a question for Ms. Corey. Currently, does the state charge? It's been a long time since I've had kids that have gone through the process. Does the state charge for an exam, behind the wheel exam, when they test for their license?
Okay, the question, Ms. Corey, is do they charge for an exam and how much maybe would be helpful too, Ms. Corey?
Yeah. Senator Kiffmeyer, Senator Clausen, absolutely. So for the first two Class D tests, they are free for anyone. So again, when we talk about third-party testers and access to training, so the first two tests are no cost to the examinee. The third test onwards is $20 per test. Knowledge test, same way. The first two tests are free. The third test onwards is $10.
Thank you, Ms. Corey. Senator
Follow-up?
Clausen?
Yeah,
Sure.
so I would assume, I think you mentioned there's 300 private driver training companies in Minnesota. I would assume that they would charge students for that exam because they are using one of their employees to do that. So there's an additional cost there perhaps to the public. My other thought, just on the motorcycle thing, the state actually has a trailer and it has motorcycles. They go around and they will train people on motorcycles in certain areas, which is very different than a person that is being trained behind the wheel, either through the school or they go to a private. And so there's the difference, that the state actually does have an option where they will train people on motorcycle safety and so on, where they don't do that for behind the wheel. So there's a bit of a difference there, and I can understand the issue of conflict for interest. But those are my questions. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Corey.
Thank you, Senator Clausen. We will go next to Senator Koran. And Senator Clausen, you can put your hand down if you've completed your area questions. Thank you so much. Senator
Thank you,
Koran.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. I missed in the update when Ms. Corey gave her update on how we caught up all the entire backlog during the pandemic times. And this bill is really to address I think the backlog and the ongoing operations. We've become woefully behind prior to the pandemic. But I missed the criteria or the statistic of what's the waiting period today for a test. If I've got an eager 16-year-old, just got his permit, how long does one have to wait in, say, the farthest reaches of Minnesota, because I believe you're consolidating sites, and or in the metro area?
Thank you, Senator Koran. Ms. Corey, and then Senator Housley, if you want to comment on that as well. Ms. Corey.
Thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer. Yes, so I did ask my staff this morning in prep for this hearing regarding next appointments. We are at the 16th of February for appointments yet in February. There are open appointments today in February for Eagan, Rochester, Bemidji, St. Cloud. So those are a few that have appointments open yet this month for a test for anyone wanting to take a test. And so as you can see, we've got Eagan, Rochester, Bemidji, St. Cloud, so kind of roughly across the state options that are available.
Thank you, Ms. Corey. Thank you, Ms. Corey. Senator Housley, you want to address that question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that it's great that they've alleviated some of the backlog, but this doesn't mean that a student still can't go to one of those sites going forward. This is just another option, gives them more opportunity to have one in their neighborhood, to not have to drive to Bemidji or St. Cloud to get their tests. It's just another option out there. They can still, those other ones aren't being taken away. They're still there.
Thank you, Senator Housley. And having traveled the state of Minnesota, the distance from Bemidji up to War Road is still about a 3-hour drive. So having them just because they're up in the northwest corner is not the same at all. And even in the Twin Cities. But Ms. Corey also mentioned there are about 300 driving schools. And when I think of those being distributed all throughout the state as an option locally, I can see that being much better, especially with talk of the future consolidation, leaving many people that live farther out at a real disadvantage. We'll go to the next question. With Senator Carlson, there you are. You had your hand up before, and then I called to Senator Clausen, and I couldn't find you, but welcome, Senator Carlson, to your question or comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I need to explain, I was disconnected by my service provider. So I'm sorry if I'm asking a question that may have been answered in my vacation there. But I'm wondering, and I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask, and I think has been at least partially answered in my head, has been the catching up of the backlog, and what's the ramp now, and what is the ideal backlog you might see. I guess let me have that as my first question.
Thank you, Senator Carlson. And Ms. Corey has covered several of those in your absence. But Ms. Corey, just in a real quick basis, if you could just repeat a few of those things for the benefit of Senator Carlson. Ms. Corey.
Chair Kiffmeyer, Senator Carlson, good to see you. Yes, we, at the current time, our goal is to, of course, be able to provide a test to all who want to take it within the 2-week period. When it comes to the backlog, we were able to complete the approximately 82,000 tests between May and October of 2020. And that was more than we have done in the heart of the pandemic, was more than we have done in previous years, with a focus on Class D and being able to complete those tests. So yes, we were able to cover the backlog, and our goal is to be able to provide a test within, preferably within 2 weeks.
Thank you, Ms. Corey. Senator Carlson, do you have another question or follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and I guess I'm wondering now, we talked about the additional costs on the agency, and that you're going to have to expend to develop and certify, train, and audit. And will those duties fall on the same people that are doing it today? And will that add to the backlog? Will you fall behind if those people are diverted to handling this additional work?
Ms. Corey.
Chair Kiffmeyer, Senator Carlson, absolutely, Senator Carlson. Those are the exact same examiners that will need to train, certify, as well as audit and monitor the third-party testers.
Thank you, Ms. Corey. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Senator Carlson, we have another 3 bills, so we're going to wrap things up here and proceed to moving this bill forward. Thank you, Senator Carlson. And members, okay. The one last thing I want to say before I give this to Senator Housley is that the assumptions are very important when we talk about things. And the statement was made there were about 300 driving schools, and the assumption used 100% of those as wanting to do this. In most any assumptions and estimate, rarely, I can't think of a time when they've used 100%. So we'll be looking forward to hearing more about that. Senator Koran, you had your hand up before. I thought you were down.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I just have one quick follow-up with a quick question.
All right, and then we'll go to Senator Housley.
Ms. Corey, because I think what part of this bill is really about expanding to our workforce or to the students all across the state. And so is the DVS expanding to nights and weekends as far as availability for working class people to take their children into testing? So I think that's one of the biggest benefits this bill would do, is nights and weekends would be available. So has DVS expanded to nights and weekends?
Ms. Corey.
Chair Kiffmeyer, Senator Koran, we have in the past 2 summers, and I know before that as well, we have always in the summer offered extended hours, as well as, I hope, I just thought I lost connectivity. Sorry about that.
You're good. You're fine.
In the summer, right from April, May through September, we regularly offer extended hours, but not nights, and we have done Saturdays, yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Corey, I appreciate that. Senator Housley, I'll go to you for closing comments, and then we'll go to a vote. Senator Housley.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, and thank you for hearing this bill. To your point, Senator Kiffmeyer, assuming 100% of the 300 driving schools, I have heard from many driving schools who don't want to do it. That actually, as soon as the bill was dropped, a lot of driving schools said, you know, we want no part of the testing. We want to stay at driving school. This is just another option, another avenue, another choice for students across the state to be able to get their driver's license exam taken. So with that, Senator Kiffmeyer, that concludes my committee hearing.
Okay, members, we did stray. It's very difficult in these kinds of bills. However, it was a good discussion, and being a finance committee, I think it was important to set the stage for the next stop of this bill, which will be the finance committee. So with that, members, I'll move Senate File 276 as amended to be recommended to pass and to be re-referred to the finance committee. Members, please unmute and come on camera if you are not already, and we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. Those opposed?
No,
Motion.
No,
Okay. All right. The motion does pass. Senate File 276 as amended is referred to the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Housley. Okay, members, with that, we will proceed to our next bill on the agenda, which is Senate File 619. And Senator Howe is a member of the committee. That is your bill, and you can proceed to move and take action on your bill.
And thank you, Madam Chair and members. Senate File 619, I'll move Senate File 619 to be in front of the committee. And what Senate File 619 does is it identifies and designates the Bill and Bonnie Daniels Firefighters Hall and Museum as the official state fire museum. And I have not been to the fire museum, but I did go online and look at it. Very impressive museum by what's on the pictures. And I will say it has a 4.5 star rating on as far as a museum to go see. So it's quite the thing. So everybody had positive comments on it. So, but with that, the thing is we don't have a state fire museum. And I think what happens here is because this started out as basically a Minneapolis, Bill Daniels was a captain from the Minneapolis Fire Department. And he started this museum. So of course it started out as a Minneapolis Fire Museum. And I think in order to get more of the outstate fire departments to donate to this museum, I think it's going to take some designation change so it doesn't look like it's a Minneapolis Fire Museum and more of a state fire museum. So I did contact the State Fire Department Association and the State Fire Chiefs Association because I wasn't going to support this bill unless it had support from the wide range of fire departments we have out there, and they are all in support of this. And with that, I'd like to, Madam Chair, turn it over to the testifiers and hear from them.
Thank you, Senator Howe. And we will move to our testifiers. Members on the agenda. We have Mr. Brace, Firefighters Hall and Museum representative, I'm gathering. Mr. Brace, welcome to the committee. And when you're ready, please say your name and your title for the audio record, and then proceed with your testimony. Mr. Brace.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Tom Brace. I'm chair of the board of directors for the Fire Museum. I think Senator Howe gave an excellent summary of the museum. We're not asking for any funds. We're asking for your recognition. We think that this will be of genuine help in terms of when we apply for grants and other financial enhancements to the museum. We've been closed because of the COVID since the end of March, and hopefully we can open in another 2 months on a limited basis. We really like the idea of expanding it officially so it includes the entire state of Minnesota. By way of a brief background, I was the state fire marshal of Washington State for 10 years, and I was your state fire marshal for 16 years. And I got out throughout the state on a regular basis. And I think there's some real pent-up demand for where do we store some of our treasures, our memorabilia. Just one quick example, the city of Falcon Heights decided not to continue with a fire department and go for a contract. where does their key memorabilia, possibly a resting place? The State Historical Society, we've been working closely with them, and we're going to increase our ability to properly store and catalog and protect and preserve the treasures there. And I would clearly invite any of the members of the committee to avail themselves of an opportunity to tour the what hopefully will be the official State of Minnesota Fire Museum. I'll pause for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brace. Very interesting. With that, our next testifier is Mr. Zygmunt. Mr. Zygmunt, again, for the audio record, your name and title, and then proceed with your testimony. Mr. Zygmunt.
Madam Chair, thank you, Niall Zygmunt. I'm treasurer of the museum, 34 years retired at Spring Lake Park, Blaine, Mounds View, and consider myself an avid historian, so I've been roped into that. I would just build on Chair Brace's testimony. Through the Legacy Grant Program, we'll also be able to do the most important thing, and that would be write grants to do the interpretive, that is to make displays, and we envision portable displays that will then go out throughout the state of Minnesota, and there'll be kiosks, if you can imagine that, that would fit in fire stations, fire halls, and tell the story. One example could be just this recent wildland deployment to Oregon, where we had firefighters from all over the state go out there. Well, right now that history relies with those 14 men and women, and it'll lie forever there unless we go capture those stories through oral histories and photographs, and then build those displays and just help tell that story. So I'll pause there also. I know the committee's got a full agenda and be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zygmunt. And as a bit of a history person anyway, it is important to remember the facts of our history, because memories are noted to become a little not so reliable as years go by. So we do appreciate that. And I see Ms. James, you have your hand up, so I'll go to you next, Ms. James.
Madam Chair, Senator Howe and members, I admit that I didn't give this bill a very careful look prior to committee because it was so simple. I'm just now looking at how we've worded these other designations of official things. And I will note that the more common way to phrase these is to just say that the thing is the official whatever. So that would suggest an edit to this on line 1.6 of delete the word designated, and on line 1.7 delete the word as, if that please the author and the committee.
Okay, to the author of the committee, Senator Howe. So Ms. James, would you repeat? We would strike designated from 1.6 at the end, is that right?
Madam Chair, that's right.
And then in 1.7, what would we strike?
Delete as.
Okay. And then it would read.
Yes, the Bill and Bonnie Daniels Firefighters Hall and Museum in Minneapolis is the official state fire museum.
Correct. We designated it through a bill, and if the bill passes, then it is. Thank you very much, Ms. James. Senator Howe, do you concur with that edit?
Madam Chair, if I could move that oral amendment, I would move that we adopt that oral amendment to the bill.
Okay, Ms. James, again, just so we have it real clear in the record, if you could just restate that.
Madam Chair and members, on line 1, on page 1, line 6, delete the word designated. On page 1, line 7, delete as.
Okay, on that motion, members, please unmute yourself. On that motion, all those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All right, very good. Motion passes and is adopted. Senate File 619 is amended, and we've had your two testifiers. I'm not seeing any questions. It's a pretty straightforward bill. And so with that, Senator Howe, you can make closing comments and then also move your bill.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I would say that this is an important step forward to capturing and recovering and keeping some of our most important history with it has to do with firefighting in the state of Minnesota. As a 27-year veteran of the fire service, we have lost too much of our history. I can think of, I know a place that I grew up on that has 3 fire trucks. One actually came from Minneapolis, and it found its way through, I think, 4 different departments before it ended up on our farm. So it is quite amazing what gets lost in time. So thank you, Madam Chair, and I would just move that this Senate File 619 be laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you very much, Senator Howe. And members, as chair of the committee, I will just simply lay Senate File 619 be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you, Senator Howe. With that, members, we've completed our action and our work on Senate File 619, and we will now move on to Senator Koran's bill, Senate File 756. And as a member of the committee, Senator Koran, you can move your bill and actions on it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move Senate File 756.
And then I believe you also have an amendment.
Not on 756, Madam Chair. That's on the follow-up bill 603 for the
Yes.
Campaign finance. So,
Okay.
yep, note this bill is it's a pretty straightforward bill. It brings into compliance membership on the Gambling Control Board, and as members move in and out, there is a struggle today to fill those board seats. And as it's written today, it's non-standard relative to all other boards. And so,
Yes.
with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to have Mr. Getman give us a brief overview of why it's so important for him to have this change, and so he can function
Yes.
and run the organization of the gaming board.
Thank you, Senator Koran. With that, we'll go to your testifier, Mr. Getman, again for the audio record, your name and your title, and then proceed to your testimony, Mr. Getman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matthew Getman, the Executive Director of the Gambling Control Board. Madam Chair, Senator Koran, thank you for this opportunity. This is, as Senator Koran had introduced, a catch-up bill to allow us to be in sync with the other boards and commissions out there, allowing board members whose term has expired to be able to stay on beyond their term until their successor is named, provided that there's no issue with the appointing authority and no issue with the member. The 2 Gambling Control Board openings right now out of 7 board seats have been vacant since June 30th of 2020. 3 of the 5 current board members were appointed months after their predecessor's term had expired. So we're running into an ongoing issue of being able to conduct the business. The board committees are unable to function. I've got 1 committee that is able to function regularly and several other committees, including rules committees, that are not able to function without issues because we don't have the board members to fill those committee seats. The proposed change would automatically extend the term of the board members to expire on the date that a replacement member is appointed to a new term. However, it gives the appointing authority the flexibility to prevent a term extension. It also gives the flexibility to allow the board members to choose not to extend, but it just allows those board members, if they're willing and the appointing authority is willing, to allow those board members to continue and to allow the board to continue to function to mitigate the pressure on that appointing authority. It's just meaning to, again, catch up the statute with the other boards and commissions. Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Koran, stand ready for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Getman, and members. I think most of us are quite familiar with this kind of process to be sure that the work of a board can continue even in those little windows of time between terms. With that, members, I don't see any questions at this time from any members of the committee. So Senator Koran, you can go ahead and move your bill. Well, actually, Senator Koran, this bill is going to be laid over for possible inclusion.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think Mr. Getman did a great job at explaining the need for this. And so I believe we're laying it over. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Koran, and Senator Getman, Mr. Getman as well. Thank you very much. So with that, Senate File 756 is laid over, and we'll proceed to the other bill on our agenda, Senate File 603. Senator Koran, you are the author, and you can also go ahead and move your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move Senate File 603. And then along with that, Madam Chair, I also have a delete all A3 amendment to bring it into the exact language that we would like to discuss.
And Senator Cran, my understanding is that the A3 amendment has been posted and has been distributed. All right.
It has,
So,
Madam Chair.
pardon, Senator Cran?
It has, Madam Chair, yes.
Yep, okay. With that, members, we have a delete all amendment, the A3 amendment. Senator Cran, is this the first hearing of your bill?
Madam Chair, yes, it is.
Okay, then this is an author's amendment, and we will apply this amendment with the will of the committee. So, Senator Cran, if you've moved the A3 amendment. All those
Madam
in
Chair, I
favor?
move the A3
I'm
amendment.
sorry,
I move the
Is that an A1 or an A3?
A3, Senator
Madam-
Carlson.
Because I have an
Well, I'll give you a moment if you need to, Senator Carlson.
Yeah, I don't see the A3 on the listing, but I do see an A1.
Okay,
On the website, and I emailed them at
it has been
1:57.
It has been emailed to you. Senator Carlson, might be quicker to look in your email from Mr. Bjorn.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I'd like to renew my motion for the A3 amendment to Senate File 603.
okay. On Senator Karan's motion, please unmute members. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion prevails. The A3 amendment to Senate File 603 is adopted. To your bill as amended, Senator Karan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What this bill does is it adds a section to qualified non-campaign expenses from a campaign finance perspective. And what it does is it deals with the element emerging need or the changes in elected officials and candidates seeking office around safety and security for their home and their persons, as well as their financial protection. And so what this bill does, and I'll just read the entire thing. The change to it is during a period of starting January 1st in the year following a general election and ending on December 1st of the year general election. So basically the campaign election fundraising cycle and qualifying expense cycle. Total payments up to $2,000 for security expenses for a candidate, including home security hardware, maintenance of home security hardware, identity theft monitoring services, and credit monitoring services. And then that's on 2.25 of the delete all amendment. And then also on 3.4 really just includes the effective date, which is January 1st. Any payments made after January 1st, on or after January 21st of 2021. So it does include this election cycle. I think each and every one of us has seen, kind of a boundaries have been crossed on all sides in those showing up and threatening people's homes. And so I do believe that it's a great conversation that we should have now. And I would hope that it has bipartisan support as we have this discussion moving forward. So with that, Madam Chair, we'll entertain the conversation and questions.
Thank you, Senator Karan. And members, any questions? I'll look for your hands to be raised. One of the questions I have for you, Senator Karan, that has just occurred to me, one of the frequent issues with folks sometimes is that they will go to sell their home and discover they have a lien. They use the Uniform Commercial Code system often to do this, and liens and other questionable activity, and they don't discover it until they are actually filing, and we've also heard about other kinds of bogus filings. Does your bill address that issue, Senator Karan?
Madam Chair, I don't believe it covers that. It covers the monitoring service and theft identification services. At this point, I don't believe it would capture that activity unless there's a service out there that under the credit monitoring and identity theft monitoring services that would also offer that type of overlying protection within their service. So yes, I haven't seen that those exist in the credit and or identity theft protection, but as it's written, it appears it would fall within that category. Because it is, Madam Chair, those, you're correct. You're correct that the activities of or the threats come in many different forms, and any entity can file those types of requests or take those types of attacks anonymously, and they could get recorded. And it happens with all types of financial and identity theft transactions. When I worked at the Minnesota Department of Revenue, one of the common ones would they would file a 1099. If anybody's familiar with that, it's a miscellaneous wage of $10, $15, $20, $100,000. And the cost to reconcile those is extraordinary, and it's always indicated at an inopportune time when you're trying to execute either the sale of a home or some other financing of a home or some other transaction. So yes, they come in all deviant forms of attacks.
Thank you, Senator Koran. Members, any other questions, comments? I don't see any at this time. And members,
Wow.
This bill is also laid over for possible inclusion. Okay, members, with that, actually, I thought our first bill was taking so much longer that it might be a while. We do have a hearing tomorrow. Senator Carlson, I see a hand waving. Does that mean you wanted to ask a question? Oh, there's your, okay, Senator Carlson, unmute yourself and then we'll be able to hear you ask too. Not yet.
Madam Chair, I would like to thank Senator Koran for this. We did have a lot of threats this past year and I know I had to spend a lot of money for security cameras. I mean, it came out of my own pocket. They'll have a lifetime, so I'm not all that concerned about the cost. But I think what Senator Koran is mentioning is real. We had threats right around Thanksgiving of people coming to surveil our home. And we actually had, and this doesn't cover, a muscle man coming to follow me around, but it does cover the things that maybe makes people uncomfortable just for being a candidate. And I'm not all that afraid of things like that, but I do want to make sure that we follow up with people. And so I installed several cameras at that time, and I'm glad I did. And in this case, I see that this would be covered as a non-campaign expense. So I want to thank Senator Koran. I had a different idea of this bill before he explained it. So this makes me feel much more comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Koran.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Carlson. And I too acquired. I live in a rural area as well, and it's hard to see who's roaming through. But with all of the increased threats that we've experienced, I too purchased the security system long before the qualifying period for full disclosure of what this bill would cover. So it was last year. So, but I did the same just so we have the monitoring systems and some comfort that if things were occur, because I have had things occur in my yard that now have been damage to property that have been unexplained. So yes, and I think it is one thing that it's now the time to have that conversation and probably add that type of protection for anybody seeking office and or those elected. Let's make sure we have an ounce of prevention on this gun side. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Koran. And so members, see no further discussion or things, Senate File 603 is laid over for possible inclusion. And members, we will have our committee hearing tomorrow as usual. It was a good, robust discussion. We appreciate everybody being here. And for those of you who are watching today, we appreciate your time as well. And with that, members, our committee is adjourned.